What's up YouTube, welcome to the video. So the topic is how can we perform Firebase authentication using email and password. So we will gonna sign up a user using Firebase auth, save its information to the database and then try to log in with that ID and then we will sign out. So let us begin. Now open the Firebase and go to project settings. And here I have my Firebase app. Choose CDN and before copying the code I will open the Firebase auth folder in my Visual Code and I will create three files: register html, login.html and home.html. I am going to close these files for now and come back to my browser and search Bootstrap 5. So we can use the latest version. In the introduction, we can copy this and make it as our starter template. Remove this, and this is our Firebase auth. And now we will copy the configuration from Firebase and put it down here. Remove these comments, and now with the help of Bootstrap, we don't have to waste huge time on designing the pages. We will just copy the floating label code from here. So just copy this, paste it in the body before the script, and let's change this to email input and this to password input. So now let's put these divs under a form, which is the right way to do it. And this form will have an ID of, let's say, main form, and I will copy this. This is gonna be text and we will be saving first and last name in the database, and we need two buttons. So a button with type submit, because it will get submitted to the form, and with a class of button and button primary. Create new user button, and the second button will be sign in. So sign in the user, and this button will be inside a link, and the link will point to the login.html. Let's also change the IDs to f name and l name. Now let's check this out. So it looks like this. To take care of this, I will put some classes on my main form. mb3. After each div, I can use float right. Will have margin and 2. Now I will copy this and paste it 2 times because I need some other functions like get database, set and ref to save my data on the database. So this should be database and some other functions like get auth and create user with email and password. So I will be needing these 2 functions for the authentication and these 3 functions to save my data on the database. Now I need to initialize db with get database function and auth with get auth function, and this will take my app. Now I will get the references. So now we have all the references. Let's create our register user function and let's create an arrow function with event, and here I have used the event to use this method which is prevent default. It will prevent any default behavior with the event. Because I am going to use the submit event, that's why I have to use this prevent default. Now the create user with email and password function, it will take auth, then the email input value and the password input dot value dot then, and inside this then promise I have to define an arrow function which will contain an argument, let's say credentials, and inside this promise we can define a function to insert the rest of the information into the real-time database. But we will do it later. For now, let's put a catch statement, and inside that we also need an arrow function which will catch the error, and we can alert error dot message. So this is not necessary, but you can do it if you want. For now, let's only print the credentials to the console, and it's better if we have a heading over here. So an h2 heading, register user. Now come to the console, and inside this there is authentication, get started, and add new provider, email password, check the first checkbox, save. So it is enabled. Now we will come inside users and let's try to register the user. Let me open the inspect first. So there is a problem. This should be Firebase auth. So that was a problem. We created this register user function, but we did not assign the event to the main form. So we also have to assign the event main form dot add event listener, and whenever the form submit, run the register user function. So now this should work. So amazing codeworks at youtube.com, and Hassan Raza. Create new user, and we didn't put any pop-up, so here are my credentials. And if I refresh this, my email is now registered at Firebase Auth. So this works great. Now let's create the login page. So I will copy all of this. So paste it here. We will have no first name and last name here. So remove all of this and let's change this to sign in or logged in, whatever. Same thing. This would be sign in user, and we will be needing the get, ref and child functions, and the create user will be changed into sign in with email and password. And there will be one more thing, which will be dbref, which will take the reference, and this db constant, and this register user will become sign in user, and this sign in will take the same thing, the auth, the email and the password, and dot then would be the same and the catch would be the same. So this so everything inside here will remain the same for now. So if we successfully log in, the console will show the credential, otherwise it will show the error. And we have to change another thing, which is this will be sign up. So we are trying to go to the sign up page, and this will take us to register. This sign up and sign in is a little confusing. Let's make it login. Login user. The sign in button should be a clickable button, so it should not submit the form. So I must sign in. So I'm seeing the login user screen, and it's saying that the register user is not defined. So in the login screen we have the sign in user function. So refresh, and now the email and the password. Log in. So we are seeing the user credential, which means that our username and password are okay. If I try to put the wrong email which is not registered and try to log in, it's saying invalid login credential. And if I log in with the right credential, then I'm seeing my credential in the console log. Now let's get back to the register, and when a user is successfully created, it is important to also save the information of the user into the database to save the other data to the database. So we will use the set function, and inside this the ref function, which takes db and the path. So users auth list slash credentials dot user dot UID. So we are saving the information of a user with its UID, which is created by the Firebase auth. And then we need to pass the second argument, which is the object first name, which will come from fname input dot value. So this is it. In the login, we will retrieve this information with the get function, and inside that we have child function which takes db reference, which is a constant that we defined earlier, and the path, which is the same. So user auth list, and we are giving the credentials. This is a function from Firebase which will check the email and password. If it is correct, then it will go inside the then promise, and the then promise will have the credentials, and we can use these credentials afterwards. So I'm using the credential to fetch out the rest of the information which was saved into the real-time database. So dot then, and this also requires an arrow function snapshot so if the snapshot dot exist, then set the session storage. You can also use the local storage if you want a user to be permanently logged in, but for me session storage is alright. So set item user info, and I will use json.stringify because I want to save an object, and the object would be first name retrieved from the Firebase snapshot.val.first name, and the last name snapshot.val.last name, and we are creating an object which contains this first name and last name, and then we are stringifying the whole thing, which means that the object will get converted into a string, and then we are saving it on the session storage. In the next page we will retrieve this information. Now I will also save the user credentials the same way, and change the window.location to home.html. Now let's come inside the home. So for the home page, I will again take the help from Bootstrap, and I will again get the starter template, and another thing is I need a nav bar because the sign out button is usually within the nav bar. So I'm gonna paste the nav bar here, change this to home, and I don't need the search bar, and this would be sign out, and we will change the type to button, and I will define a script, and we will get the user credentials with json.parse And from the session storage dot get item function, we will get the user credentials. So user cred. And this would be user info, and we will get the user info. And this sign out button will have an ID of sign out button. And let me define two headers h2. One will have an ID message and the other will have the ID greet. So now let me get the references. The message head dot inner text and the last thing, which is the sign out function. So arrow function, and the sign out function is quite simple. We will just remove the items from the session storage. Then we will change the window dot location to login dot html. And we will do another thing, which is I will create another function check credentials. This will check that if session storage has the user credentials. So if it's not null or undefined, then this will become true. Move to the login page and I will run this function on the page load. So window dot add event listener, and on load I will run this function. And another event that I want to assign is for the sign out button. Whenever the button is clicked, sign out function should run. And this user cred actually has an S at the end, and these two lines should be executed only if the session storage has some credentials. So in the else statement, these lines would be executed. And now let's create a new user. Let's just delete this user and create a fresh account. So the same email, Hassan Raza, create new user. Let's refresh and the account is created. Now we will come to the real-time database, and here is our new user with the first name and the last name. So now let's try to log in with this user. Sign in. Login. So it's saying that user with email amazingcodeverse@youtube.com logged in, and it's saying my name. Before clicking this, I wanna show you that in the console you can see the session storage. So here is the session storage with my credentials and my information. If I press sign out and try to see the session storage, you can see that its length is 0. If I try to go to the home page with no credentials, then it is redirecting me to the login page. So this is all for the video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel. See you next time.